good morning. Welcome back for another tutorial on how to create your fashion presentation in Adobe InDesign 2021. This will be a more advanced tutorial. If you want to see how to do basic setup, please go back and watch the previous posted video from maybe 2 to 3 years ago on my channel, Fashion Presentation for Beginners. Otherwise, let's just keep going. So as you can tell, I already have some stuff set up because I like to work smart, not hard. A few key things I want to talk about quickly. If you scroll over to pages, obviously if you've seen the very first video, you already know how to set up not only your workspace. Right now I'm in Adriana's workspace. She was my intern, now she works with me. But I also have Laura's workspace. So. All right, so scroll over to pages and we're going to play a little bit with the masters. Masters basically is the same thing across any universe, Adobe Universe, Microsoft Universe, or Canva, or whatever software you're using. There's always a master somewhere. Essentially, the master is something that once you create, it applies to either all pages or some of the pages, and sometimes it's locked. Like for instance, right now I'm on page 2. If I try to click on this right now, unfortunately there's nothing I can do because I can't move things around. I could, there's a specific command on the keyboard I could type to do that, but because I did the rendering in the masters, that's why the pages is not really giving me the editable version. This is something that you will thank me for later, because sometimes you're moving things so much. Essentially, you want to make sure you have a workable workspace and page without having to move things around too much. So I'm going to double click on my A master, since this is where my little boxes are placed. So I'm going to zoom in. And I might need to move some things around so you can understand what's going on here. So what I did first, I created bounding boxes. You can create them with the rectangular frame tool. You can create it with the polygonal frame tool. It really depends. So sometimes you have to keep that in mind. All right, so if I were to create a polygonal shape or frame and I wanted to do the same design that I did not too long ago, it might require a little bit of calculation, but it's doable. You know what I mean? If you want to place it in a specific area, but again, you would want to make sure that all the spaces are evenly distributed and there's no gap or funny shape. If you need to use your guide, please do so. So you know every time you have a guide, it's where you place the middle of your square. I'm gonna place one right here, and then if we want to utilize this one right here, we can utilize it. So it makes it easier for you if you want to do a complicated layout like this, so you know every time you place your rectangular or square frame rather, that the center would match your guide. So when I did create this, unfortunately I did not use my guide, so it took me a minute to actually really get this going. But for you guys online, I would say definitely use your guide. It would help you if you were to do something like this. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the polygonal things. At this point right now, these shapes, if you want, you can place colors in there. But for this particular presentation, I created it for images, because I'm creating a storyboard, not necessarily a mood board. It's sort of a mood, but a story that will correlate to the actual presentation from the second page, where I am to place my illustration, swatches, and color story. So in this sense right now, if I don't want to place I could. I don't want to say I don't want to place. I could place my images directly in the masters, so that once I'm in the page mode, I can just edit just the title, the description, if you want to do that. Some people do, some people don't. Essentially, you want to have a presentation with minimal wording, not too much of typing, because you want to present the work, not talk or read off the board. You know how boring that can get. Alrighty, and then obviously I have my frame, which, if your smart guide is turned on, should be easy for you to place right in the center of your page. All right, so at this point I'm satisfied with this. If you want to put page number on this right now, what you could do, I want to do something fun here. I'm going to activate my type tool. I'm going to create a box. And then I'm going to right click inside my box. Okay, so insert special character, and you're going to scroll over to markers, and you can put current page. You can do previous page, current. I like to put current page, so like this is what I'm working on. So if it does place an A in there, please do not delete it and go back and try to put a 1. This is just Adobe's code for recognizing current page. The only thing you can do is change the properties of it, meaning the font, the color, and all that good stuff. That's all you can do to this. So at this point right now, maybe I can change the paragraph style. I'm gonna align it to the right and maybe shrink that down a bit. Okay. So we're good to go. At this point, we can start slapping the images in. You can either do file place, or if you already have your window open somewhere, I have my images ready to roll. You can just start grabbing and dropping. So you don't have to drop them one by one. What I like to do is select all my images. We'll start from the top first because it keeps the order in which you clicked it. And then I'm going to drag it in, hold the mouse, and then wait. So it's going to attach itself to my mouse, ready to drop. So the way I want to place these images, in a sense, is to tell a story for the collection that I have created for the purpose of this video. So obviously it started with the darkest image in the hue as far as the color direction goes. So I'm going to place it in the last one. Okay, you can't really see it because I have a shade effect on it. So for me to bring that back up, I will right click on the image while it is still selected, effect, transparency, and let's double check. I have it at 50%. I'm gonna bump that up to about a good, maybe the whole 100. Let's see, yeah, the whole 100, and click OK. Same thing here. I don't want too much shading over there. I'm gonna go effect, right click, effect, transparency, and bump it up. 65. I'm gonna bump it up all the way. I don't mind. Over here the image is really big, and you can tell if I zoom out and look at the bounding box all the way out there. I don't want that, so I'm gonna right click on it and scroll to fit, and I'm going to fit the frame proportionally. And once I zoom back in, then I have my fabric. Right now you can't really tell what you're looking at, and because I did change the color scheme of my presentation, it's only fair I change the background of the main title, which I'm going to increase slightly because it's touching the title. That works. Still fuchsia. Let me test this red out. Okay, and then I might want to drop the opacity on that one too. So let's right click, transparency. Come on, work with me now. Effect, transparency, we can drop that down to about 60%. All right, so for me to tell right now how my page is looking without all the lines and bounding boxes and all these parameters on the page, on your keyboard, if you just simply type W, it will take away all the line. It doesn't mean it took it away forever, it's showing you a preview of what you just did. And if you want to bring it back, just type W again. Okay, so far we're still in the masters. I kind of like what I see right here. If you want to put your name somewhere, this would be the time to do so. So you can brand your presentation. I don't want to make it too big because the project is not about me. The project is about the project. So what I like to do is kind of, indicate that, hey, I'm here. Let's align this to center. And what I like to do is rotate. So we're going to go right click, transform. I'm going to rotate it counterclockwise and placed it. I rotated it and placed it here. I'm going to put it somewhere here, right in between, over here. So you know whose project this is. And if you want to put copyright claims, this project belongs to me, blah, 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 you can do the same thing. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm good with this page right here. And this is what it looks like. Okay. So now I'm going to activate my actual page. I don't know if you noticed, the page is already showing the preview of all the masters editing that we just did. So I'm going to double click on the page. I'm going to zoom in, and this is what we're looking at. Now we cannot click or change anything until you activate the code to bring it forward, which I like to do only for the title and the description if you choose to bring that up. The way to do that on your PC is to hold Control Shift and click. On a Mac, you would hold Command Shift and click. It will activate what you need to activate, and then from then on you can change the title of your project. Okay, but I don't need to because I'm going to leave it like that. All right, let's move on to the next page. The next page, color scheme, obviously you can tell, is from a previous project that I have done from an old company that I used to work for. It has the swatches ready to go, the title at the bottom, the color scheme on the side, a little shadow on the floor. I don't know if you just noticed. I'm going to type the W so you can see the indications and bounding boxes. I have the indication of the images in the background here, which means the same images you saw earlier, we're going to transfer them down here. And these two are not dotted like this one, which means it's not locked in the master's page. Obviously these are selectable. So this is what we're going to do right now. I'm going to go back to my B master. The B master is the next page that you want to create, where you can either drag and drop it to wherever you please, and you can actually keep clicking the create new page, but as long as you're activated within the master's page, it will add it there. Okay, but if I'm not in the master and I double click out of it and I put new page, it's going to add a third page, and it will continue the third page with the B master until you tell it not to, and that's by dragging a new page on it. Let's say, for instance, you have a second portion of your presentation with a new title, then you place new images and all that stuff. This is where masters comes in and handy. So first of all, let's transfer the images here. So we can either do it one by one again like we did earlier, or we could just copy the master and rotate it. Either way it works. Since I already have my frames ready to go, I'm just going to go ahead and grab my images one more time. And this one I'm going to play around with it a little bit, where I don't want to show too much of the red since I placed the lighter color on top. And I will enlarge. The difference, here's the thing you need to remember in InDesign. If you click the actual frame and try to make changes to the frame, the image itself is not moving. However, if I click the center circle right here, now the frame won't be changing, but the image will. So the frame remains the same except for the actual image. Okay, so this is a really cool thing to remember in that sense. All right, what I did in this page to make it look more uniform, I essentially arranged it in a much more presentable colorway, so it's not looking like it's jumping from colors to color. So it looks like it's blending from that pastel beigey to the pinkish blush to the yellow and the red. Okay, so that's what I just did here. Now, if you want to drop down the opacity on this page, by all means do so. I'm going to go Effect, Transparency, and drop it down, because this is no longer about the image. It's going to be about the illustration or whatever else. If it's not illustration, the floor plan, InDesign floor plan, or whatever else you want to put on that page. It's about that, not necessarily about the images. So the images are complementary, not the focus. So at this point, I'm dropping the transparency, and I'm okay with this. So I'm gonna type W. This is looking nice. Okay, that's good. Now, based on my images on this side, I can kind of guide my colorways. And how did I create these? Well, instead of using frame, this time I used the actual shape. And I long pressed on the little corner and activated the rectangular tool and created my shape. And from the properties, back again, if you go to fill, then you can pick whatever color you wish. If you don't have the color, you can always activate the color picker and then use your eyedrop to select your color. I'm going to start with the darkest color on top. The only thing with using the color picker here is that because your transparency is down, it may pick up on a dull color versus a brighter color. That's the only thing. If you don't want to keep looking for the color while you selecting, what I would suggest you do is add it to your swatch. And once you add it to your swatch and click OK, then you don't have to keep searching for it. It placed it in the bottom. Same thing here. I'm going to select the second image, right click the color picker, and this time I'm going to move on to the next color. Sometimes you can't tell if the color is there, but because we have a plain white background, I'm okay with this color right here. So I like what I see. For the title of the project, remember we're still in masters. So even if we do changes, we can always activate it in the actual page. Over here, there's nothing because the placement, the bounding boxes are activated on the page, not the master. The shadow here, I think I did like a pink color. I'm gonna drop it to maybe a grayish color, or a dull sandy color to make it more believable. And then this is grouped right now. If I ungroup it, I'll be able to access the background, which if you remember, we actually did in red and dropped the opacity. Okay, at this point I'm okay with this right now. I'm gonna go back to my page section. As you can tell, when you double click on your page, it's here ready to roll with obviously placement in the boxes ready for placement. Let's talk about swatches for a quick second. Swatches, you can show your swatches in many different shapes. It doesn't have to be with the pick and shear. If you've actually done physical manual board presentation, there's like a specific set of scissors that has like jagged zigzag teeth that creates your pick and shears. It's recommended by industry standards to have your swatches with that, but it's not a requirement. It's recommended, not a requirement. So based on whomever you're presenting to, if it's a school, they might let you get away with just doing circle, 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 square, square, squares, or heart, 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 whatever you please. But for industry purposes, I like to use pick and shear. Like if I were to really cut the swatch with my pick and shear scissors. How did I create the pick and shear? Well, it's pretty easy to do. If you scroll over to Illustrator, you can create, hold shift, create a box, a square shape, make sure there's no fill, and then scroll over to effect, distort and transform, zigzag. And while you're here, you can choose to do relative, you can choose to do absolute. There's no right or wrong answer for this one, as long as you have the point on all four corners. Right now I don't, so I'm going to increase my ridges. Okay, this is good, so I may want to decrease the size on that one because I like that I have all four of my corners pointed. Let's drop it to maybe 3%. So I'm okay with this right now. I'm gonna click OK. So this is a good example of how to create your pick and shears. Obviously, I'm still in effect mode, so go ahead and expand the appearance so it can be an actual shape. And from this point, you can actually copy this and drag it into your InDesign, and you will have your swatches. So this is how you easily create your swatches. And make sure you have points at the edge so it looks believable and realistic. Okay, so Swatches, you can put colors in, fabric, whatever you please, as long as you make it, you arrange it in a order of light to dark or pastel to blush or whatever the case may be. Make sure you arrange it however you want so it matches your color palette on the side. Now I'm ready for illustration. I already have 2 illustrations that I've drawn many moons ago for my publication workshop course. So I will drag these 2 in, and I know I have a box here, but I need to choose which go where. So I'm going to place the girl with the pants behind, and then I want to place this lady in the front. Okay, I like to remove background in my images because, well, this makes it a little fun with the white around it, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. Quite frankly, there's no wrong way about that. So you just play around with your illustration, make sure it's matching the shadow and the height, it's uniform. The only thing is with placing the second image, if you want to show them all with the same height, by all means do so. I like to emphasize at least 1 illustration so the client can know, oh, this is nice, I want to look at it, blah blah blah. The only thing you have to remember though, make sure not to cut your lady or man illustration at the knee, at any joints. If you cut them at a joint, you're making them look like they're missing a limb or extremities. Don't do that. And keep it either at the same height or make her higher because of perspective. So it really doesn't matter where you place it. So at this point, I think I like this. All my board is uniform. I like what I see. It's very clean, very simple. If you still want to put your watermark Laura LaFrance on this master page, you can go back to your master. You can copy this right here and then paste it on this page, paste in place. You may want to bring it to front because, okay, it's already in the front. Or if you don't like it where it is at this point, you can actually change it, put it on top or at the bottom. Really doesn't matter at this point. Yeah, the title of the project right here, all your swatches here, and again, it could be color, but since we already have colors, this would be like the fabric that you have, like this floral fabric, the nude color, that satin or satin. There's really 2 different fabric really. Satin is one thing, satin is another. But you see it has a sheen to it, which indicates that the fabric is shiny. So if you want to put that fabric there, that's something you want to do. I have 3 types of fabric here and a plain white. So in a colorway, I would put the white fabric at the bottom, my nude, my sateen, and my floral fabric at the end. And this is how you create a more advanced professional presentation with advanced technique in Adobe InDesign. If you have questions, reach out. I teach these on the side, specifically weekends or nighttime, because during the day I'm a full-time teacher. If you need help with your project in school, I offer tutoring on my website, lauralafrance.com. Scroll over the courses and I can teach you how to do some more cool stuff. There's so much more you can do in InDesign for fashion. So get in touch and we'll take it from there. Ciao, ciao.